I never make the kids part of the problem. Are you kidding me? They're part of the solution. She would put labels on food saying, do not eat. Never do that. Because I think I got an eating disorder from her. So this is where I get a little sad. 91% of children today do not get the allotted amount of vegetables. So they don't get 3 servings of vegetables a day.
Thank you for watching. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Every like and subscribe is a free way to support us, expand our reach, and plant new ideas. Maybe a good place to start is walk me through life before Nurture. You had a whole career in corporate America for a while in Chicago. What did that life look like?
I love that you say Chicago.
Yeah, that's
that
how
way.
you know.
Yeah, I know. I know you're a real Chicagoan.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll go all the way back to when I was a kid. My dad was a double chairman at the Chicago Medical School. He was in biochemistry and anatomy, and they merged the departments to become the Department of Biological Chemistry and Structure. And he would bring my sister and me to work a lot
At campus?
at the Chicago Medical School campus, which is now actually called the Rosalind Franklin University of Health Sciences. I don't have it in the right order, but Rosalind Franklin was actually the person, she was a woman. She was responsible for discovering the double helix. She did not get the Nobel Prize. Watson and Crick's did, 2 men. And my dad, after he was chairman for many, many years, when he retired, he was on the several different committees, including admissions, but also the committee to rename the school. And he was always a big proponent of women in science and women in medicine. And so they found Rosalind Franklin's story to be one that was totally worth, telling again, because there's a lot of stories like that. But back to the Chicago Medical School, when it was called that, we would sort of run around the halls and bother scientists about different things. And we would find these books and we would read through them. And my sister and I were fascinated that you could get things like pellagra, which is black tongue disease. And you get that if you don't have enough B vitamins, or if you don't have enough vitamin D, you get rickets, and they have, or, you can get blindness from not having vitamin A. They had all these sort of very jarring pathological photos and stories. And my sister and I were just sort of fascinated by, really, like, based on what you eat, real or what you don't eat, like if you lack these things, like it was just mind blowing to us, frankly. And there's a lesson in the Nurture curriculum all about black tongue disease, and it's about reading labels of all the enriched flours that we have now so that we don't get black tongue disease. So anyway, it all comes together in so many different ways. So you asked about Chicago and what it was like. I just remember Chicago as this very like forward momentum kind of time in my life. I loved it. Like there are seasons for like tons of progress, and there are seasons for like tons of reflection. And for me, Chicago, well, I was actually in consulting. So when you said corporate America, I graduated with my MBA at age 25, at the tender age of 25, and went into management consulting and ended up with my own company by age 30. So it was a fantastic ride, and I only left that part of my career because my second child, I was on bed rest, and it was impossible for me to run my company and be incubating him and be on, which was the most important projects I've ever done. My 2 children are by far my most important projects. Yeah. So it was different for me when the kids were little, and because I was home, and I really wanted to give back in some way. And I would go for walk and talks with my dad every week. And he said to me, have you been reading the literature about diabetes? And he said 1 out of 3 children born in the year 2000, which is the year that my daughter was born, will develop diabetes if they follow the standard American diet. 2 out of 3 if you're from a low socioeconomic status. And I said to my dad, I can't not do something about that. Like that's one of those things that just it awakens me in a way that I can't describe. It was, I can't not do anything. And when I say it was this very, very fast-paced time of life, like all I had to do was kind of put that seed out into the universe of I can't not do something. And then all of a sudden, PhD in nutrition drops into my lap, and children's nutrition educator drops into my lap. And one of my former clients at Motorola, she was the head of HR. She's like, I'll come be on your board and help you build it out, structurally. Just all these different incredible connections came together when I finally did the thing that my dad said, which was write it down. What are you going to do? How are you going to do it, roughly, and what's going to be the benefit to people? And it was just one page, and I started at food pantries, and I talked to the food pantries. Actually, I was already volunteering at food pantries, so I had the connection there, and I noticed that the food that we were giving out wasn't the best quality. And then you hear from the families in terms of meeting a need. I'm so tired. I don't have enough energy for my multiple jobs. I've got multiple generations in the family. I also in the house, right? So I got to help with grandma, and and I've got a kid with congestion. Just the endless obstacles that people had to overcome, and then being hindered by the food and the fuel that they were putting in their bodies. So in a very gentle way, and Stephen, this is so foundational to everything I do, and that is that no judgment, no use of words good and bad. I mean, sure we can say things are good, but I'm very careful.
Yes, you use good or go food and slow food.
Exactly, exactly. And it's perfect when I started working with kids too. If you walk into a room of kids and you tell them that their cookie is bad or their brownie is bad or they can't have this, you've just burned the bridge, which could have been this educational moment. And so by burning the bridge from the get-go, I think that's what a lot of people are like, why didn't this land? Why didn't this land? It's because if you shut people down before you try to educate them, then they don't feel like they have a choice. So nurture was like, this was all in this one page, was like, give education and inspiration, but choice. Like keep it positive, keep it actionable, and have it be based on what people really need. Like I didn't want to create a program because I thought it was a good idea. I wanted to go to the participants and find out what they really needed. And not surprisingly, obstacles were cost, time, and know-how. And so we sort of systematically figured out, okay, how do we address time, cost, and know-how? And again, the universe provided this incredible contact at Hamilton Beach, where we developed a corporate sponsorship with them, where they gave us refurbished rice cookers and slow cookers. Because slow cookers, that was the thing that sort of changed my life. You can get a bone from the butcher, unless you're a vegetarian, but this is for meat eaters. You can make soups out of that. You can take a chicken and put carrots in there and some water and leave the house, put it on low for the day. So the slow cooker was really the thing for time, as well as the rice cooker. As soon as we taught people that rice cooker is not a good name for this piece of equipment because it makes you think that it's only for rice. And we were really pushing lentils, split peas, they all cook up so well in a rice cooker. Beans, fresh fruits, vegetables, all of our recipes were based on that. And the slow cooker was really, and the rice cooker were really the like key elements to dealing with the fact, well, if you just have 5 minutes in the morning, just 5 minutes, everybody can make 5 minutes. Not everybody can make an hour though.
Right.
And so we really had to think about that. And not everybody can add, the finest materials and ingredients to every meal. Like we really had to, in our food committee, pare it down to just the essential things so that we could get all of our recipes to $1.50 or less per serving. So that was the cost. So time, cost, and know-how. How are we going to get the knowledge into people's hands? And so with partnership at the food pantries and then leading into social service agencies and schools, we said, well, how about you recruit participants? Is there anybody that would love a series of 4 cooking classes? That's how we set it up in the beginning. They just come back once a week. They can bring their kids, and we're going to cook during the time. They're going to be able to eat during the time. So it's like family dinner. It was sort of how it was more pitched to them. Because like, come to a nutrition class? No way. But come to a 4-part series where you get a rice cooker, you get a slow cooker. We were giving out hand blenders. And every time they came, they got something. And then we prepared in that hour, going to the whole time thing. We prepared 4 recipes and everybody got to eat. So that was how we got started. And it was just, tons and tons of momentum that led to momentum that led to more good stuff.
I do a pressure cooker or Instapot several times a week. Were those around then? Was that a thought?
So this was 2008, and it's so funny because one of my nurture board members, Juliet, would just like be like, "Yes," because that was what she noticed is like, there's different trends that are happening right now. Air fryers are the big thing,
Mm-hmm.
but the Instant Pot, yeah, we did a lot of recipe modifications for that, but nurture predated that. So we're talking about 2008, and Instant Pots weren't really big back then.
So going back to what your dad said about write it down and how you've referenced the universe providing and aligning for you, what are your thoughts there? Putting that intention out there and then the universe maybe meets you halfway, or what is that? What is the universe showing up in that way?
Great question. I think that the universe we're constantly in dialogue with, whether we want to call it God, goddess, all that is, pick your whatever, right? There's a force. I'm a Star Wars fan, right? There's a force, and I do believe that if we allow ourselves to be in service, my grandmother was also a huge influence on my life, and she actually until her 90s she sewed dolls for the poor. So she would get all of her materials, and that was what she did all day. It was like her meditation was just sewing dolls.
Wow.
And whenever I was at sort of a decision point in my life, she would say these incredibly sage things to me. And she would one of the times right before nurture, I was like, I want to do something different. She said, "What are you passionate about? What are your God-given gifts? And what is a need in the world?" And so I was like, I've always been passionate about nutrition. I've always been really good at like project management and organization.
Hmm.
And we still have starving people. Now, Nurture was pre Michelle Obama and Let's Move. She was Nurture was like Michael Pollan was around, but all of like his incredible books on nutrition were soon to come. Jamie Oliver hadn't like done all of his great stuff. So we got to ride the coattails also of all that other stuff. So when I talk about the universe, I talk about it as like your team. And for us, we were really careful. We ended up building an incredible curriculum or actually curricula, because we had a curricula for families, for prenatal, for teens, for kids, and then we mapped it to the whole core common standards for elementary schools. And so we thought our stuff was pretty good. However, we were always really careful of being like, "Oh my gosh, you're doing something in this area." Or might even be adjacent, like yoga or sleep or like all of that stuff. It was like, oh my gosh, more good things happening. And if Jamie Oliver is going to do this big thing with, taking a wheelbarrow of sugar and dumping it on the stage, we were like, cheering for that. Like it didn't have to be our content.
Right.
Like the fact was that a lot of people were doing great things.
Yeah.
And so it made it so much easier for us
Mm.
to do, because a lot of other people were doing it as well. And the universe specifically for nurture really did it. Just like I never felt like I was pulling teeth. I never felt like I was calling the food pantries over and over and over and
Yeah.
begging for, like it was really just it was the showing the universe that we wanted to take action. Like I think the universe is kind of like, all right, well, who really wants to do something about this? Like
Mm-hmm.
there needs to be some action too,
Mm-hmm.
not just like I want to.
Yeah, I'm not going to just manifest this sitting on my couch.
There you go. Yeah, who said that? Was that Jim Carrey? Like you can't just try to manifest something by like sitting on your couch and eating a sandwich. Like
Mm-hmm.
you actually have to go out and
Meet it
do something.
halfway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did a lot of that, but I was always very, very open to what's going on in the broader context, and how is that helping us? And also like where does this feel good, and where does this feel ample? Like we always wanted to come across with this energy of abundance.
Mm-hmm.
We were never That's another thing. We were never about taking away. You can't have that. You can't have that. It was always about, well, have you tried this?
Mm-hmm.
And that was just sort of more of an abundance mentality.
Researching you a bit, I know that fun is something of a North Star for you. How has that guided you, and how has that helped you to kind of find your way as well?
I'm chuckling a little because I'm just thinking of the nurture board meetings, where we spent so much time on our vision and mission. Like I was always there saying, "Can we please keep fun in there?" Like I wanted that
Mm-hmm.
word
Yeah.
in our mission. Again, it's for me, fun is fuel. Like and food is fuel. So there's this synergistic thing going on there. I also feel like when you're talking about things where people can get a little prickly
Mm.
or a little guarded, I mean, kind of the same thing, but one is a little more aggressive and the other is just, I don't want to listen. There has to be something where you can, again, build that bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And for me with kids, it's easy because, again, if you use the right vocabulary, right, and you're there to offer something that's fun, and all kids like rainbows. I know we're going to talk about rainbows in a little bit, but if you can fit in some thematic themes where and adults like a lot of adults really do like free babysitting. Like that's how that was a big selling point,
Oh,
right?
okay,
Okay,
yeah.
so I mean, if again, I'm not saying all adults. I don't want to generalize, but in certain cases, if you can be like, I think that would make it more fun, or that would make it more fun, or these families are going to miss their kids because they're so used to having family dinners together that we have to include the component of the kids coming into the adults class and doing a presentation so that we're all together. So fun is one of those things where it's like what is it called with Venn diagrams where it's overlaps? I think it's called a vesica, where you have to figure out like what is fun for you, Stephen?
Mm-hmm.
What is fun for me? Because it totally can depend.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, though, you can find some vesica or some overlap,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what you go for in a group.
Hmm.
And like I find that just like eating good food is fun. Like
Mm-hmm.
you when you're in this nutrition space, you don't have to search too far
Mm-hmm.
before you're in fun territory.
In other news, because of GMOs, monocropping, and soil depletion, Americans are not getting enough nutrients. That's why in 2018, I founded B Micro, the first freeze-dried microgreens company in the US to help Americans get more natural nutrition in their diets. Microgreens are a phase in the plant's life when they're just 14 days old and naturally the most concentrated in vitamins, minerals, and unique antioxidants. Our microgreens are all grown here in the US and certified USDA organic and regenerative organic. We grow, wash, and freeze-dry them to extend their shelf life from 1 week fresh to over 1 year, allowing us to ship anywhere in the US without the worry of spoilage. We have 2 flavors: broccoli, backed by over 2,000 studies on sulforaphane for its powerful detox benefits, and a blend of broccoli, radish, and red cabbage, our most powerful detox formula that we've tested, giving you the most bang for your buck. Easily sneak these into any meal: eggs, pizza, pasta, or even your kids' mac and cheese. We have whole leaf, powder, and capsule options, so you can choose the way that works best for you. Use code PLANT15 to save at bmicro.farm. So your dad shared with you in 2008-ish on this walk, the 1 in 3 kids are going to have diabetes. 2 in 3 if they're in a lower socioeconomic way. Is that that was the initial spark for you, and what drives you today?
Yeah, I was just thinking those statistics are based on the standard American diet, SAD. Like the opposite of fun is being sad. And um, yeah, I think it broke my heart. It really, like, it broke my heart to think of that happening. I mean, I would literally look at my kids. I have two, and I would look at my kids, and if there was a third kid in the group, like, it would just break my heart to
Mm.
think, wow, people with diabetes, sometimes have both of their feet amputated.
Wow.
They can be blind. I mean, it's not something that you want anyone to experience if possible. So it was just that wasn't necessarily a fun moment for me, but sometimes a kick in the pants is a different thing that we need. And then it's like, okay, well, I got my kick in the pants, so I've got a little bit of momentum. Then how do I sustain it?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's the fun. The fun is in the sustainability,
Mm-hmm.
because if it's drudgery, if it's sad, if you feel like that you're not making progress. I mean, that's why it was so fun to do all of this work and to continue this work alongside all these incredible people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nutrition the field of nutrition is just full of incredible visionary leaders. And, sure, we disagree on things, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what does self-care look like for you today? How do you keep yourself in a good way where you can stay connected to that healthy, fun way and spread it?
Self-care is so important. I would say I've always moved my body. Like every single day. I don't care if it's raining, I don't care if it's snowing. I go outside. And I try to go outside and for a while. Like I love being outdoors.
Same.
And so that's self-care for me. Being with animals is self-care to me. Being with children. I mean, people are like, why are you like taking all this time out of your schedule now, Kathryn, to go to spend time with kids in preschools? I'm like, because it fills my heart. Like it's
Yeah.
like these kids literally after spending an hour with me, like run up and hang on my legs, hug me and tell me that they love me. And and I love your shirt and I love your earrings. Like, just like they're so close to source,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, very
Okay.
much so. So where does intuition come through? How do you decide what to do next as you're in this flow? I hear a North Star being fun and trying to in health. But how do you know what to do next?
Yeah. So there's a couple of really great speeches by Steve Jobs. There's one that he did at the commencement at Stanford, where he talks about how you check in with yourself every morning when you wake up and you say, am I excited about what I'm going to do today?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no for too many days in a row, that's when you know. So for me, it's a combination of listening to that. Like I love listening to commencement speeches. I think they're so wonderful. I love ancient wisdom, and a lot of the commencement speeches are just repackaged ancient wisdom, but you can go straight to the sources. And then it's actually taking action there too. Like I have a lot of journals. I have a lot of colored markers and pens, and my favorite ones these days are these little sparkly pens that like have a little sparkle when I write. So it's looking into that wisdom and gathering from that wisdom, but then implementing it as in a way that relates to me. So like when I journal, like I put like Catherine, or if I'm feeling playful, I put cat, and it's about how I'm applying it. And I keep those journals and I check in. I make sure that the trajectory is going in the right direction.
So if somebody's feeling like they don't have a lot of fun in their life, or they're feeling like they're not tapped into some greater calling or their own intuition, well, what might you offer them?
The first thing I'd say, and that's why I said Catherine and Kat, is I would say get in touch with your inner child. Because go back to the kids, like all kids have fun. Like kids have not forgotten
Yeah.
how to have fun. I think a lot of adults, they sort of get it beaten out of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's, there's this masculine expectation of providing. There's this feminine expectation of receiving, but nobody knows what that means, right? And then we're adults and it's like, well, when do we laugh? When do we play? When do we explore? Like, when's the last time you got on a playground and actually, went on the swing or went down the slide or whatever? So that's what I would suggest to people is journal to your inner child, or sit with your inner child, talk with your inner child. Remember what you loved to do when you were 10.
Yeah.
And if it was like riding around on your bicycle, like get your bicycle out. Or if it was making weird concoctions in the kitchen, give that a try. And if it means going to a playground and going down the slide, if your body will do it,
Yeah.
I recommend it.
Yeah, for me, it was riding bikes and climbing trees. So once
Yeah.
a week, I'll take sometimes like a whole day, 5, 6, 8 hours, and I'll ride my bike out to the forest and just climb trees. And there's something about me being on an entrepreneurial path where it's like grind, grind, grind. You gotta just keep going, high output. I'm also learning that I can slow down to speed up. When I slow down in the forest, I get clarity, especially from nature, source like speaking, flowing through me, and these knowings come through. And then I'm like, okay, I very clearly know what to do on these next three projects that I'm working on. And so I'm not spreading myself thin. I'm not going in a direction that doesn't really serve or move me forward.
I love that. I mean, anytime you're stuck on anything, get away from the desk.
Yeah.
You
Go into
know,
nature.
yeah. I mean, when I was writing my first book, that's what I would always do. I would always just be like, okay, I'm not going to come up with this sitting at the desk. And I would love to go for a hike, and I would bring my phone, and it was like the downloads they would just come in, as I was hiking. I'm like, that's what I wanted. Then I would record it in my phone, and then I would let it like let it be. Like instead of like chewing on it and
Mm-hmm.
regurgitating and whatever, like I would just be like, okay, well, great, it's in my phone, it's taken care of. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can allow
Mm-hmm.
my conscious and as much as my
Yeah, it's
subconscious
been
be open.
captured.
And then you're hiking along, you're smelling things, you're hearing the crunching of the leaves.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that okay, put it, so that's how it works. People talk about the shower or
Mm-hmm.
running water. For me, it's moving my body.
And what is that? What is that voice? What is that knowing to you?
That knowing is your gut instinct.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's also your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Dispenza talks a lot about, brain heart coherence. And I think that's what nature does, is
Mm-hmm.
it allows those systems and your breathing, and when you make decisions in that place where you're breathing, you might be moving, your brain isn't overwhelmed with things, then you know those are good decisions because they're not being made under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I also think if there is a sort of fun or excitement in the body, we listen to that.
Yeah.
And then finally, and I wanted to ask you because you talked about when you climb trees and things, do you call yourself Stephen in those moments, or do you have a special name for you as an inner child?
Um, I I don't know if I call myself anything, but yeah, I attuned to my name, like the frequency of my name, and I try to when I meditate, I will meditate around my name and the frequency of it. But when I'm in nature, I'm just in full flow. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to this tree or that tree, or now I'm going to sit here and I'm going to have an apple, or I'm just in full flow. And that's where I'm out of my head. I'm in my heart. I'm connected to myself. I'm connecting to God, spirit, source. And yeah, that's where just truth comes through that I really trust. And the more I practice it, it's like a muscle. Like I get stronger at it. The more I listen to my intuition, I think the more intuition speaks to me as well.
Mm.
And then I'm like, I'm just trying to move from a place of inspiration, not from anxiety or fear. I try to make no decisions from that place. I mean, I'll get triggered, sometimes and aware of those and work on them. Um, but I realize when I'm in my trigger, when I'm in this like fear state, that I'm typically 100% wrong, and not to, and just to stop, look back to where that, like, follow the golden thread of like, where does that come from? What happened to me as a child to where, and go back to that child and comfort and try to help him grow up, mature up, heal up a little bit.
Oh, I love that you do that.
Hmm.
If we all did that, I think we'd have world peace.
Yeah. Yeah. Share more about nurture. How long have you been working nurture, and what's the state of it today?
So Nurture started in 2008, and we focused mostly on food pantries in the beginning.
This is in Chicago?
It was in Chicago,
Yeah.
yeah. You know Northfield? That was the food pantry that we work with. It's just west, Northfield Food Pantry.
Okay.
And it was interesting, speaking of the suburbs, when we were launching our school programs,
Mm-hmm.
we wanted to find the schools with the highest percentage of students that were on free or reduced school lunches.
Hmm.
And it was interesting that the school that had 99% of their kids on free or reduced school lunches was in a suburb, Highwood. So it's interesting how as you started to look into the data, sometimes you're surprised. Like I thought we were going to be going to the south side of Chicago, and we
Right.
did end up, doing some programs there. But in terms of the trajectory, we started working in 2008 in the food pantry programs, and then those expanded to agencies. So we started to work with YMCA's and JCC's, and I mean having the physical infrastructure taken care of by a partner
Mm-hmm.
was great. Meaning like we never paid for physical space,
Mm-hmm.
so it was great as we started to do fundraising because we're a nonprofit, and nonprofits are. I was listening to another one of your interviews. This was a gentleman who worked in Africa, and he said he felt the
Dave Hoyme. Yeah, my best friend. He's actually going to, what's it called when they lead the ceremony for the wedding? He's going to,
be
um,
inefficient.
yeah, he's going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
officiate my wedding.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh
Hmm.
my gosh,
Yeah, and
that's
he
so
lives in he
exciting.
lives in Cape Town now, and yeah, he's phenomenal. His childhood best friend.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's right. You guys were talking about all the things that you were places that you overlap. And he recognized what most people do in nonprofits, and it can be frustrating because we're trying to solve some of the largest problems in society with the fewest resources.
Yeah, it's hard to sustain a nonprofit because you're always that's where sometimes the for-profits are the most successful.
Yeah, that's what he said. He switched into that area. So we've been fortunate to find business models that, like shared space, and we even launched a program. I think it took a couple years to launch. So it's probably like 2010, or maybe even it might have been as early as 2009, which was grow your own food. So again, the food pantries or the churches or synagogues, they would sometimes have adjacent land, and they're like, if you're teaching people all about the importance of eating closer to the earth or whole foods, we could put in community gardens.
Hmm.
So we would because we had a lot of people that wanted to volunteer for nurture, we were able to kind of place them into different, like, you can go work on that community garden, you can work at this one. So we got into doing that as well. I'm trying to think of then we kind of concentrated on schools for many years as we got our curriculum matched to the common core standards. And then we did a lot of training because, remember, we were trying to figure out how to do a lot of work and touch a lot of lives without spending that much money.
Hmm.
I, as the executive director, never pulled a salary because I really wanted the donations to go directly to the programs. Now, we did have paid people in the organization because we had a lot of things going on, but we were very, very good, and we still are. We're amazing with our fundraising in
Mm.
terms of when we get in funds, people can actually put them directly towards a program,
Hmm.
so they know that it's going towards the participants. And again, like, I have a lot of, I mean, when I say again, I mean going back to the nonprofit model. I understand how important nonprofits are and how difficult it is to be sustainable. It's really difficult that a lot of funding opportunities don't want to go towards that backbone, towards salaries or administration, all that.
Mm.
It's just harder to raise money for that.
Hmm.
It's possible, but it's just more difficult. And so we always took an approach of, okay, if we could figure out how to funnel it directly into program materials and in ways that the participants will benefit, that's going to be more effective for us. So we had a pretty good fundraising strategy, and that's allowed us to kind of operate pretty leanly over these, it's not 20 years yet, but it's getting there.
Wow.
Like, it's, yeah. And then we'll talk about the books when that's appropriate, because that was sort of a way where we would have our touch points, but we could leave behind. Like, I know when I go, like I went this week to visit a school, when I have an event with the kids, it's very fun and hopefully high impact. But the teachers will say, "Oh my gosh, you're leaving these books for us." Like, I try to leave one set
Hmm.
per classroom. That way, the learning continues, the reinforcement continues, and the books were designed after working with so many kids, with these little ways, sort of like, there's a lot of science in there, but there's a lot of psychology in terms of, like, the kids love to search for things and they love magic. And so when we were putting things into the book, they're almost like Easter eggs. We've got smiley face Easter eggs in there, and we have sparkles always means magic. And so when we're teaching the kids about how each color of the rainbow is good for your body, the sparkles always end up on the characters, like heart if it's good for your heart, or brain if it's good for your brain, cardiovascular system, or white's really good for digestion, so there's sparkles there. And that's literally, when I'm going around with the book, the kids are like, I didn't see the sparkles. Like, they want to see, they
Hmm.
want to find these things, and there's little questions with, like, the answer flipped upside down. So it's kind of designed in this way to make it be this outside, hopefully more objective viewpoint, as opposed to the parent saying, finish your food.
Mm.
Make sure you finish your food, or eat your
Hmm.
peas, or whatever it is. That doesn't work.
Hmm.
And I've been a parent too, and I understand exactly why that works and why it doesn't work. And that's one of the most important pieces of the psychology. I was even called by the media, I was called the picky eater whisperer,
Hmm.
because I was able to go into situations, sometimes classrooms, sometimes we would pull aside a family or a child. Usually with just the parents, you can kind of figure out what's going on. And the key we always found was that you take off the pressure. Like, nobody likes to have a pressure point on them constantly, especially around food. And then you get into eating disorders and all that. We wanted to really steer clear from that. Another reason to have no judgment. So the psychology is around this choice, and it's around not having pressure and having for kids having a character that they can identify with. And there was some real psychology with that too. How to create something that isn't their parents. It's good that it's not their teacher too, but teachers are they're better off than parents, because I see kids are way more likely to try things in a school setting. You're way less likely to find picky eaters if kids are eating together, because there's sort of this natural peer pressure thing, whereas at home it's more of a power struggle. So we really try to get rid of that, and we find that with the use of the books and the characters, that's been more of the main focus of nurture lately. Is kind of like continuing to bring these to kids, because then the kids grow up and they become parents, and they actually will implement the psychological and scientific gems in the books without knowing it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. What is the state of school lunches today? How have you seen that change over the years?
Oh, it's all over the place. I mean, let me start with some incredible news. Right here in Boulder, we did a program with Chef Ann Cooper. Well, how many years ago was that? Maybe around like 2015, 16, something like that. I came to Boulder. I was living in Sun Valley at the time, and Chef Ann Cooper invited me in to the Boulder County School District, and we read to a lot of the classes. We had assemblies. We had an unofficial rainbow day. I only say that because every day is a rainbow day, thanks to Chef Ann Cooper, where the kids are eating, literally, they're eating from a salad bar that has all of the colors. And the kids are like, I of course had lunch with the kids in the cafeteria eating the food. And it was so much fun. And I loved being able to go through and make my selection and talk to the kids. And one of the things that kids love to hear, especially when they're older, like, fifth graders, whoa, Olympians do this? And this is a true story. When I was interviewing Keegan Randall, she actually was a gold medalist. She's been in the Olympics 6 times for Nordic skiing. And she says, "Oh, what we do, Kathryn, we're competitive all the time. And when we go to it, we're on the road and we go to a place with a buffet. We always have a contest of who can get the most colors on their plate. Fruits and vegetables, right?" So I tell that to a fifth grader, and they're like, "Well, I want to be like an Olympian." So the good news is there are places that are doing exceptionally well with offering fresh, like homemade meals to kids. So that's the good side. Is that everywhere? Absolutely not. But there's more awareness though. Like every year, I think, we chip away at that model that we had you grew up in the 80s, I grew up in the 70s, of like the space food, or like everybody having a sandwich on Wonder Bread, and if you didn't have that, and if your mom sent you with crunchy granola bread, then you were weird, right?
Right.
Now like kids will come up to me and they're like, "I have rainbow carrots in my lunch." Like and that's again what the book is all about. It's about trying new foods. It's about food identification. It's about plant identification. And kids are really proud of I know what a fig is. They love that stuff. So I just see tons of positive change.
And maybe what's some common misconceptions about having a really healthy school lunch? One that's coming up is it's just a lot more expensive, and maybe these schools can't afford it.
Yeah, well, there's a difference between like the school lunch programs too, and which you can't control, and then being able to do it from home, right? So if a parent is listening, I'll give you my favorite thing that I did for my kids, and that was that I got them bento boxes. So bento boxes are based on the Japanese way of arranging food. Part of eating and enjoying your food is how it's presented. Like truly enjoying your meal starts with seeing it. And when things are kind of like all like jumbled, whatever, you might not get as much enjoyment out of like opening up something that has like your carrots here, and then there's grapes here, and then there's the sandwich, and maybe it's cut up in a fun way, and the cheese sticks here, or however you want to do it, or maybe there's some dipping. That's one of the things that I love about the bento boxes. You can have like hummus for dipping. You can have different yogurt dips, and then once you've got dips, then you have freedom to put in the celery and the carrots and the peppers, and then it becomes really, really colorful. And nothing that I just mentioned is expensive. Like hummus is one of the greatest economic hacks
You
of
can make it yourself for almost nothing.
for almost nothing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I
Versus
don't.
buying at the store. I don't really buy at the store because there's a lot of seed and vegetable oils in it,
Yeah.
even when it's organic.
Yeah, I mean, and I have to say, like, I don't, I use canned chickpeas, so I cut one corner there, but you know, tahini, chickpeas, lemon, spices. Oh my gosh, Cuisinart, you're done. And I use a recipe that uses two cans of chickpeas. It takes a long time to finish off that amount. Like we're talking about hummus for a week and sharing it with the whole family.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice. And speak to the rainbow. What does, is there a color that is hardest or that people are most efficient in?
Okay, so it's not necessarily a color. It's a member of the family.
Okay.
So the data on this is that 91%, so this is where I get a little sad. 91% of children today do not get the allotted amount of vegetables. So they don't get 3 servings of vegetables a day.
And I think that's Americans wide because that's a stat that we use within Be
Okay.
Micro of like, hey, we're trying to help you get more, easily get more vegetables in your diet because 91% of us are not getting enough.
Yep. Yep. So I find that with kids, fruits are so much easier. I mean, with adults too, sometimes, I don't know. I mean, I love vegetables. I've always been that way. Uh, the, the vegetables can be a little bit more tricky with kids. And anyone listening, one of the best things that you can do is just buy a bag of rainbow carrots. Like your kids will, you know, when you cut them, you know, and look inside and see, it's almost like I was thinking about you and climbing trees. Like it's tough to be ruminating or sad about anything when you're in like the majestic
Yeah.
beauty
Yep.
of a tree and you actually start to see that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with a lot of the vegetables. Like when you cut open a head of red cabbage and you look at that beautiful design. I mean, sometimes just taking moments with the children to appreciate the beauty of plants, especially vegetables, can be really helpful.
Okay. So rainbow carrots, you're getting purple, orange, yellow.
Yeah, I mean, and my favorite one are the dark purple ones that you cut in half and they sort of have like a tree. They sort of have like these rings that go down to white. I mean, it's they're like nature truly creates the most beautiful art.
I think the original carrot was purple. And then we've worked them to the maybe it's easier to grow an orange carrot than a purple carrot, but I think that's the original carrot.
Yeah, I mean, I love having fun with all kinds of vegetables. Like, you know, one of the schools that we work with early on brought us in specifically to work with them on their fresh fruit and veggies program. It's a grant that they got from the USDA, and they said, "Listen, we get all this, we get all these fruits and vegetables, and the kids don't know what they are, and so they don't want to try them because it's like trying something starts with a vision and then goes to smell." And then goes to like, wow, okay, I have to put this in my mouth. And it can take, I've heard, you know, 7 up to 16, who knows what the real math is, times to try something until your palate really starts to get it. And so what I do,
And trying could be viewing.
well, that's one of the problems. That's what we were addressing with the books is we wanted something to leave behind, but we wanted something that would actually continue the lesson. And when you have illustrations, that doesn't count because that's not really a plum. That's not really what this
Okay.
what the surface of. And a lot of kids, their aversions actually come from textures, and so you kind of want to understand what that is too. And so the visual thing is so important. And we were there are great books out there about eating the rainbow that predated all the stuff that we created, but most of them didn't have real photography. And so we went through a lot of trouble finding the most beautiful photos of food because it is art. And that's, you know, that's why the book was such a success with adults too, is they're like, this book is beautiful. You know, I'd have people like calling me and texting me and saying like even babies would be like, you know, trying to eat the page and stuff, like just being able to actually see the fruits and vegetables counted as part of their exposure, makes them more likely to be able to try it. But I always would draw the line at, if you smell it, you get a sticker or something, or it counts, your participation counts. Yeah, I'm not going to I'm not going to force somebody to put something in their body that they don't want. But I love when they look at it, and that's why you want to make it really do you want to find the sparkles? Do you want to find the hidden this or that? So you want them to look at it, and if you can get them to smell it, great. You've gone a long way. That a lot of kids, they won't do it. I've had a lot of kids that will only eat white foods or brown foods, or there's just certain almost like fetishes or like aversions that they have. Sometimes it's a texture thing, and you just gotta. There's always a way to work around it. But don't get too caught up in providing the solution yourself. I always say to the kids, like, I never make the kids part of the problem. Are you kidding me? They're part of the solution.
Okay, right.
So the first thing I'll do is sitting down with the kids is find out, what they like or whatever. But I'll typically turn a picky eating situation around to like, hey, like, can we help out your mom? Like, I hear your mom wants to train for this 10K and she is looking for some energy. So what do you think would make your mom have more energy? Let's think about it. And then stop talking. You know what I mean? And just let them come up. As soon as children recognize the solutions inside themselves and that they are the solution and not the problem goes away. Like I've often joked that, like, if we could have the children be responsible for world peace, like, I think we could get there. They have so many solutions.
What is if you were to offer advice to the parents of picky eaters, how to introduce new foods to them? What's there for you?
Talk to their friends' parents and see who's got the appetite for having a lot of different foods around, and make sure that there's an agreement that it's not going to be forced on your kids or whatever, but get your kids in front of other kids that are eating that food. So that's what I would do.
A lot of parents buy our microgreens to try and kind of sneak into their mac and cheese and their burger. And what are your thoughts on taking that kind of maybe short-term thinking, kind of sneaky approach versus maybe being more watching the microgreens being put on top?
I like the latter, involving the kids and actually being able to add it. And we talked about this a little bit off air, that there are some great cookbooks and strategies about hiding things. I'm much more philosophically on full disclosure. Like, I really just want to be able to tell.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever be somebody that's keeping something like a secret, because that's dishonest, and that you see through that immediately, and you lose that bridge is burned. However, what parents listening have to realize is they are in 100% control when the kids are babies. And you can start kids on vegetables. It doesn't everybody. I mean, I don't know. When I was raising my kids, they had us starting on starch. So, we are responsible for developing our kids' palates, and we can have a huge impact. And you don't need to explain to an infant or even a 2-year-old. You really don't. You just need to say, this is your sandwich, or this is your mac and cheese, or this is your soup, or whatever it is that you're preparing. And then as they get older, involving them. I mean, I had my kids were deep in Montessori, and our house was set up in a way that if I was doing work, the kids could do work too, because that's what they wanted to do. Like, if I was watching, if I was washing dishes, they would be in their like special Montessori height at sink, so they could stand and wash the dishes with me. Same thing with cooking. I mean, my daughter was stirring bowls at 9 months. I mean, really, like, people are like, really? I'm like, really?
Wow.
Would they be on the ground and
Yeah.
all that stuff? But that's that she was doing that at a really early age. So I believe you involve kids, you take advantage as much as you can of that sweet spot when you're in charge of their palate. And that, for some kids, I mean, for me, that lasted until elementary school, until first grade. I had almost complete control of my kids' palates, because the Montessori school that they went to, which was really, I mean, if they went to a play date, most of the kids came to our house anyway, so they're mostly at home. And we had lots of kids over, and we would do things out, obviously, and I would do adventures and things like that. I would usually pack food, but I had an extraordinary ability to just allow my kids to try everything. I would make games. I would say, like, okay, today we're going to do a bingo game, and I would put colors or things, whatever. And because we had a garden, we could have huge bingo cards, and they would get a point for trying the cilantro and the parsley and the oregano and the thyme and all the herbs. I mean, people think, oh, there's no way I can do that. I don't have a garden. Well, everything I just named, you can grow on your windowsill.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's about being inventive with games
Mm-hmm.
and really doing that work up front with the palate. And if kids are having microgreens in their mac and cheese from day one, that's just what they know.
Mm.
And when they go and have mac and cheese without the microgreens, they're gonna be like, this tastes weird.
Okay, yeah, you're like training the body to enjoy that. You're
Yeah.
opening their palate to it. Speak to maybe the different stages of development around food for a kid. Like when is the palate kind of locked in?
I don't know that scientifically. I don't think I've ever read anything from science saying that a palate is locked in. I've just read all about the number of tries that it takes. And again, I've seen science saying
Mm-hmm.
6, 7, up to 16, 20. I do believe that those first, when you're starting the solid foods at around 6 months or so, up until about age 2, when they're really becoming more individual and more independent,
Mm-hmm.
that's the sweet spot for like getting as many, whatever it is that you think you will struggle with, and it's probably going to be vegetables, like getting as many vegetables as you can in the kids. Do that, from the beginning. And then after that, it's about what you're doing.
Mm.
So when I, as the parents, and so like this is again, I'm not judging anybody. This is just what I observed. Is a lot of times the parents would say to me, "How can I get my little Johnny to eat this food?" And I would stop right there and say, "Well, tell me about mealtime and tell me about what you guys are eating."
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Oh, well, my husband hates salad, and I don't really like." I'm
Yeah.
like if
Yeah.
you're not, digging into your kale salad or whatever it is, or microgreens, or having your
Mm-hmm.
smoothie and going yum, and then
Yeah.
talking about how it makes you feel,
Mm-hmm.
and saying, "I'm so grateful for this energy," or blessing your food, or whatever it is that shows the kids that this is not drudgery, this is awesome. Though that's a missed opportunity. We need to take as many opportunities as parents to show our kids how delicious healthy food is.
This podcast is brought to you by B Micro, organic freeze-dried microgreens for easy everyday nutrition. Sprinkle them on any meal and enjoy the benefits. Shop now at bmicro.farm and use PLANT15 to save 15% off your next order. Speak to that gratitude and prayer around food. Why do you think so many cultures do that?
So I've been told by some spiritual teachers that they would rather eat McDonald's all day long that was blessed
Mm.
versus like poorly grown, sort of energetically toxic healthy food.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like this eye-opening thing to me, because I was always coming from a place of science and it's biochemistry, but I am a very spiritual person as well, and we all know that we're 70 something percent water, and we know about the water experiments. I know you've talked about that on your podcast before as well. And so imagine all of our, the water in our body, taking on a structure,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we want that to be beautiful. We want that to be crystalline. We want that to be, positive.
Mm-hmm.
And because we get so much of our water from food, we really want that food to have positive energy in it. So by like taking a moment to pray, I was recently at a retreat where we had all of our meals as mindfulness meals. So instead of all getting around, because it was 12 of us, instead of getting around a table and, I'm having the side conversation there, and then then I'm going over here, and a little chaotic, it was a mindful dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that we didn't share, but we took a reading, or we did, something that was focused, and we did mindful shares, and we included everybody. So there's different ways to be more spiritual, to be more present around our food, recognizing that is energy, recognizing that has an interface with the water and other substances in our body that create who we are walking around every day.
Mm-hmm. And for me, there's something around the intentionality around it as well. It's not just like I like to smudge quite
Yeah.
a bit and burn Palo Santo and sage and copal and things like that. And if I'm if I have really the intention of I'm clearing this space and this is really happening, that I'm drawing in more good things and helping to release things that no longer serve, that it's much more impactful. So yeah, that intentionality is big. And I wonder, and me and my now fiance, we take turns at every meal praying. So I
Hmm.
prayed for breakfast, she'll pray for dinner, and we just go back and forth in that kind of a way. And it's really, it's a sweet thing. And I feel more an aliveness from the food. It's like, it's just like putting that intention of, I want to start this company and the universe is meeting me halfway. I feel like I'm
Hmm.
met more by the food, I'm lifted up more by it.
Yeah, I would say that the short and crazy mealtime structure of public schools was one of the biggest shocks for my children.
Oh,
When they went in, they're like, "Mom, I can barely eat."
oh wow.
In this sort of industrialized shuffle and
Yeah.
blah 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 on the bell, and so as parents or as individuals, we can take the time that we have at home to
Mm-hmm.
do something that offsets that.
Mm-hmm.
So all like
Mm-hmm.
that prayer and that intentionality, if there are parents listening, know that that might be what your kids are experiencing at school.
Yeah.
So if there's a way to make it at home way more slowed down, way more calm and intentional,
Mm.
everyone's going to have a better time.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have less food fights at the table,
Mm.
and everybody's going to digest better.
Mm-hmm. Speak to digestion. What does that look like after eating a meal? Is there a recommended activity or something to do or not to do?
Oh my gosh, like the whole don't swim after you eat. Yeah, I don't have any hard fast rules on that, but I do think like after you've had a big meal, it is nice to kind of just relax
Mm-hmm.
and digest.
There's a Chinese proverb that says, "Walk 100 steps after every meal and live to 99." Because digestion is a bit of a manual process. So if you walk, you're helping, there's like gears in the body. And as you walk, you're working those gears and working the food through you in a good way.
Walking is magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, walking is meditation, walking is therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and walking is one of the best things that we can do.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to parents introducing new foods to their kids, you've shared on some of the things to do. What are maybe some of the common mistakes or parents might recognize to shy away from these ways of introducing?
Again, just pressure. I mean, I have recollections of being at the dinner table hours after the meal was done, and it was no longer about what was on my plate. It was about a battle,
Yeah.
and I did not, it was specifically these peas. I did not want to eat these peas.
Yeah.
And I ended up, my family just left me there, and I was sitting in the dark at the
Mm-hmm.
table. This is gonna make my parents sound terrible. They're wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people.
Mm-hmm. They're
But
doing the best they could.
yeah, I think, my mom would tell me things like, "Hey, when I was growing up, there were times when we would have corn on the cob, and that's what you had for dinner. Like
Mm-hmm.
there was a plate that was put in front of everybody, corn on the cob. This is what we're having for dinner." So I think my mom was kind of like, "Well, I give you a meal with the protein and the vegetables and the rolls or whatever else." And, she wanted me to have all of it. And sometimes I didn't want to finish my plate. So I never suggest to people that they make their kids finish their plate, and just because that was one of my personal experience, and it escalated. I ended up like throwing my food into the garbage, and I got in trouble, and you
Mm-hmm.
know so that was my personal experience, and I think that's like the best place to speak from. The other place was when my parents got divorced, and my dad remarried, and I lived with my dad and my stepmom, and she would put labels on food saying "Do not eat."
Hmm.
Never do that, because I think I got an eating disorder
Mm-hmm.
from her putting things, and just lots of comments like, "Who ate all the ice cream?" I see somebody ate all the ice cream,
Oh.
things like that. Just parents, be very careful. Be careful what comes out of your mouth. Be
Mm-hmm.
careful what's on your face.
Mm.
Be careful what's in your body language.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful what you're doing around food. Kids are like sponges, and they're watching everything that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So the self awareness is so important with parents. and just not creating any kind of battles around it. Food should be one of those things where, I mean, it's one of the ways that we define human existence. Like when we're in this, I believe in the afterlife or the spirit world. When we're in the spirit world, we're not going to be able to eat anymore.
Yeah, it's one of the best parts about being here in the human form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we're not going to be able to smell anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so, at least that's my belief system. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, anybody can believe whatever they want. So, I think to myself, like, while I'm having this human experience, those few things that you can experience as a
Yeah.
human, like, make it exciting, make it
Mm-hmm.
fun,
Mm-hmm.
make it all that it can be.
Mm-hmm.
Not just I'm gobbling this down because I'm on the run.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do that when I'm a spirit.
Mm-hmm. Thoughts on how to communicate around foods that aren't healthy, like processed foods or, high sugar type foods.
Okay, so this is where we get into language and how I don't use the word bad. I try to not use the word junk food either. In Spanish, it's chatarra. So you have to be careful with the words that you use because you don't want to call like I'm offended in science that anyone calls my DNA junk. Like what do you mean I have junk DNA?
Hmm.
So what do you mean this is junk food, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, as a parent, oh my gosh, okay, I'll give a couple of really actionable items. One is teaching your kids to read ingredients.
Mm.
So this would be like starting in like the kids are like great at this at like fourth, fifth grade. Like you can do scavenger hunts in grocery stores and things like that. And you just kind of put it to them and say like, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
I mean, most kids will go and look it up and they'll be like, Mom, did you know that it has da 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 da? My kids found out that there was this cookie that it was grandma's cookie that was packaged and was only like we could only find it in a gas station. Like they didn't even have it in the stores where we lived. Um, but my kids looked it up and it had a food coloring that was made from like a strange kind of shellfish and it caused like allergies in people. So like they figured that out. Like I think getting kids involved in reading labels and understanding what food is about. Remember what I was talking about my sister and me. We were little and we were going through these adult nutrition books
Mm-hmm.
and we would find what appealed. It's the same thing with kids.
Mm.
Like if you just give them some raw materials,
Yeah.
they'll mostly figure it out, and they'll also probably tell you that they're not going to give up their favorite things. And we always had cookies in my house, we always had ice cream. Like I wasn't a house, but when it ran out, like did I immediately make sure it was full? Not
Mm-hmm.
always. I mean, again,
Mm-hmm.
you always have choices over what is coming in and out of your house. So as parents, you have a ton of control now, and I would definitely take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
So one is getting them involved in reading labels and just having them make choices. Second is having them get involved in finding out what's in things that might not be considered good for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And having them make that a judgment call. Because the more a kid is like I work with a lot of kids that can't have dairy and they can't have gluten, and as a result, they're like food scientists.
Oh,
They know so because they have to be so
because it makes
aware.
them sick.
Yes,
Hmm.
and and these are the kind of kids that they're like the best eaters
Mm-hmm.
because they really really understand and appreciate their
They're really
food.
involved in it.
With sweets, certainly for adults, I followed Dr. Andrew Weil's advice about sweets. I think it was him that said that, or it might have been Agustin. It was one of the diet and nutrition doctors. They talked about the 1 to 2 to 3 bite rule, which is like if you have a cupcake, that first bite of the cupcake is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
The second bite is good. It's like okay,
Mm-hmm.
but really, if you think about it, by the time you're on your third bite, you've gotten what you need. You don't need to like eat those excessively
Yeah.
sweet foods to the point where they're giving you nutrition because they're not.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the empty nutrition comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So I would rather have a kid, take a bite of a cupcake and not feel any guilt or shame, and you don't want to be called the cupcake police. Like I know, some parents are like, when they would hear about the nurture program, they're like, "You're not the cupcake police." I'm like, "What is that?"
Mm-hmm.
They're like, the moms that come into schools and get birthday cupcakes banned. I'm like, no, 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 that's not what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So again, you have to be really careful with that dance. Another thing that parents can do with label reading, and again, this would be like for a little bit older kids, because again, you have so much control when they're little, but as they're getting older and they're out more and they're with their friends, and when they start having money, control is lost, but the education remains. And so I like to teach kids tactically that a teaspoon of sugar is equal to 4 grams, which is equal to 1 cube. And so if I come into a classroom and work with kids, I'll teach them that math first, and then I'll have items like little stations around the classroom, and the kids get to guess how many cubes or how many teaspoons or how many grams of sugar is in each item. And so it's one of these things where they just learn a lot about it. Like my son stopped eating Nutri-Grain bars if he's like, oh my gosh, there's that much sugar in that. Same thing with Mountain Dew. I always save that one for the teacher because there's 77 grams, which is like a pyramid of,
Yeah.
of sugar cubes
Like,
and
how do
Mountain
they even
Dew.
get it all in there?
Seriously, it's like almost as big as the bottle. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like like so. But the kids know the answer, and the teacher is trying to figure it out, and the kids are like,
Mm-hmm.
more. I have to put more,
Oh,
another more. And by
nice.
by the time like the teachers like built this pyramid, like the kids will come up to me after lunch and they'll be like, I'm still gonna have my cookies
Mm-hmm.
for lunch, but I think I'll have regular milk today instead of chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if they told me that they were gonna have the Mountain Dew, I'd say okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna tell them not to do it,
Yep.
but I'm surprised by the initiative they take with a little bit of fun education. And when I say fun, it's not judgmental, and
Mm-hmm.
it's
You're like
interactive.
empowering them too.
That's the idea.
Mm-hmm. Speak to dairy and gluten. Why do you think there's such a um, issue with that in the U.S. today?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, in the Latino culture, there's a whole mythology around dairy and congestion and all that, and then there's the whole Weston Price, where it's raw is fine. Like I've dabbled in all of that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think there's that I can find definitive science that says that dairy does this or does that. So what I do is when it is, and now we don't even have the my plate anymore because we got rid of it and we went back to the pyramid. But you know how the government puts out recommendations,
And I
dietary
think they just
recommendations.
flipped it.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I almost don't want to talk about it because I was so happy when Michelle Obama put my plate in place. Like I was clicking my heels for days, like or months or
I don't
years.
really
Like
remember that.
so,
Would
we
you?
used to have the pyramid,
Right.
and then Michelle Obama came in, and I was like, "How did you do this?" She got rid of the pyramid and made it a my plate, and half the plate was fruits and vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all you really needed to hear
Mm-hmm.
for me to start clicking your heels.
Mm-hmm.
Half the plate was
Mm-hmm.
fruit and vegetables. That was groundbreaking. And then she had protein, and then she had grains, and then she had off to the side dairy because there's a dairy lobby. So my take on that whole thing was that was awesome, but Harvard came out with Harvard's healthy plate just after my plate was released, and they're like, based on the science, we think that the dairy should be replaced with water, and that we should add healthy oils. So there was no like obvious placement of healthy oils on anywhere on my plate or the pyramid. So Harvard's like, if we're going to give dietary recommendations, we have to put in healthy fats because that's our brain, that's our eyeballs, like
Yeah.
the membranes of our cells.
Yeah.
So I would say that rather than trying to get to any definitive answer about this again being good or bad societally is just well, my favorite framework is Harvard's healthy plate because I think water is the best thing to drink. But that's
Mm-hmm.
just me. Why don't we do a like a little investigative process into better beverages,
Mm-hmm.
because like if I have the answer, nobody's listening. But if somebody asks me about dairy and I go, well, I know about Harvard's health, let's look at it. I literally will have the kids compare it. So what's the difference between the two? And then they get to it, and I'm not necessarily, and please, I hope they never walk out saying, Mrs. Catherine says that we shouldn't drink dairy. I would never say that I mean, if it gives you an allergic reaction, then don't drink it. But again, I'm not there to take away things. I'm there to educate, inspire, and give choice. And the way to do that is to let people come up with their own answers.
What's the ratio breakdown for you of fruits, vegetables, protein, fats, carbs? What's a healthy ratio for kids and adults?
So I'm just going to give you the super easy parental answer. So the super easy parental answer is if your kids are out of the house, they're likely getting enough carbohydrates. So you don't need to stock your shelves with the crackers and the goldfish, blah, blah, blah. Like that's probably taken care of. Focus more on the protein because that's not they're not getting that. And the same thing with fruits and vegetables. They're probably out getting because fruit's way more portable. Like it just is. I mean, carrots are good and celery is good, but what I always do is tell parents that your job in the home is to make up for what your kid's not getting when they're out and about. And they're probably not getting as much healthy, lean protein, and they're probably not getting as much vegetables as they need. So if you could focus on that at home, then you don't have to worry about ratio. You let the ratio work itself out because your kid is not going to die from not having enough carbohydrates and or have any kind of nutritional deficiency. They're not gonna get black tongue disease today. It's just not gonna happen. Well, I can't say never, but it's unlikely to.
Sure.
Given my nutritional background and my opinion, this is just my opinion, is forget trying to measure or be too sciencey about it, and focus on when we're in home. And you don't even need to say this, but like this is when we really make sure our kids get enough protein, and we make sure our kids get enough vegetables, and make sure they get enough good water.
Yeah. What is good water to you?
Good water is just, it's not soda. It's not a sports drink. It's not Gatorade. It is water. So, I could get more picky and say, filtered water or this kind of water, or I just listened to something about bottled waters and which are the worst. Like, it is one of those things where you can start taking apart each answer and finding fault with it because nothing is truly right anymore. Like there isn't a perfect anything. Like I'm giving up on my concept of perfection because it just doesn't exist. Maybe if you hiked up to some pristine spring and
Yeah, right.
could get the water right out of there, or had a whole monastery praying over your water before, that would be perfect. I mean, but again, I have to be realistic. So it's really, I mean, for me, in my house, I drink filtered water.
How do you filter it?
I have two methods. I have one method that's under the sink that just does it through a system there. My favorite one is it's a hydrogen ionizing machine. So the water goes through that and it comes out with some hydrogen in it. And that's just the science geek in me. That's really geeky of me.
I do reverse osmosis, and so it takes out everything, and then I add the good things back in.
That's awesome. That's a really good system.
Yeah, not expensive, easy to do. Oh, how do you think about supplementation?
That's another one of those things where it's like, I can't give the right answer. I can give you an opinion,
Please.
and I can give you an opinion that's a public opinion when we were with Nurture. And because we debated this a lot. In fact, we even had, people that were all about supplementation. That was their whole career. And they're like, oh, but if they just could have, blah, blah, blah. And we just decided as a public appearance for Nurture that we weren't gonna push supplements on it from the basic cost standpoint, if that makes sense. In my own personal experience, I love supplements.
Same.
So,
And it's hard to get, especially vitamin D. Even in Colorado, I just interviewed a doctor earlier this week, and she's like 99% of the people she tests are vitamin D deficient, and we've got over 300 days of sun a year here. So it's vitamin D with K2. I think it's D3 with K2, she said, and I forget why, because of just it works better. And then magnesium. Those are the two things that she highly recommends supplementing with.
yeah, you nailed it. I mean, those are the two biggest deficiencies. B12 also can be a problem in our culture. I mean, I just think, and I have gone all over the place in this area in my own personal life, where I'll read all these books and I'll want all these different supplements. And then I feel like I can go too far. I think like I was at one point I felt like I was taking too many
Oh
supplements.
yeah, I've been there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think it's one of those things where that is such a personal opinion, but the science does show that those are the top things to be
And get your blood
deficient in.
tested and see what's going on. What do you
Yeah.
need?
Yeah.
How do you think about washing food,
Oh my
washing vegetables,
gosh.
and
Again, this is one of these things where it's like, oh, there's so many. I've been exposed to, like, for example, when I lived and worked in Mexico, I had a Mexican boss and an American boss because I worked for a joint venture. And the wife of my American boss would take everything from the farmer's market, everything that she bought, and I'm kidding you not, would put it in a kid's pool in her kitchen with bleach.
with
With
bleach?
bleach.
Oh, what?
I know.
That's misinformed.
Yeah, I mean, this is a long time ago, and she might have had some personal experience that led to, you
I do
know,
baking soda.
okay. Yeah, and there's hydrogen peroxide. There's you can do that. There's veggie sprays. When my kids were little, I was very persnickety about making sure that everything was really well washed. I think today, again, this is just an opinion. I just rinse it.
The just rinsing it, having a natural products company and we wash all of our stuff. We were washing with in an ozone bath.
Okay.
So ozone, the
Wow.
thing is you don't want to breathe in that
Yeah.
ozone because it's not going to like really hurt you that bad, but it can give you a scratchy lung. We're not meant to breathe that in, but that is it's like 10 times more effective or 5 times more effective than chlorine. And it has a half life of like 30 minutes. So it all evaporates immediately. So we've tested it at 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 45 minutes, and just 15 minutes in an ozone bath. You can buy an ozone bubbler off of Amazon, and you just it's got like a little bubbling stone that you put into a tub of water and just let your veggies bubble in that. That gets it all off,
Oh.
inexpensive. But what I do today is baking soda,
Okay.
15 baking soda and water, 15 minutes. All the studies show that because these herbicides, pesticides, and fertilizers are mostly waterproof because when it rains, they don't want it to have to spray their fields all again. So it doesn't, washing it with just water doesn't really get much off. But the baking soda, I forget what's baking soda is made out of, but it's enough to shift to get the stuff off basically so that when you then wash it, it does all come off. And there are certain fruits and vegetables that are very important to buy organic. I think berries and apples, but I wash everything. And then it also has a longer shelf life too, because those herbicides, pesticides, they will they will make the produce not last as long.
Yeah, I have to say, the Dirty Dozen is something to look at.
Yeah.
And I mentioned Dr. Andrew Weil. This shocked me. He was asked to describe the worst meal he could possibly imagine. And of course, it was fast food. But he said, to top it off, I'm going to have a dessert for you. And the dessert is going to be non-organic strawberries. And when I heard him say that, I was like thinking that he was going to have some Dairy Queen parfait for dessert or this triple layer cake or whatever. And no, it
Yeah.
was it was a non-organic top of the Dirty Dozen list. You
Because they're
know,
so absorbent.
yep. So when I say I just wash things, I buy organic whenever I possibly can. So
There's a lot of
that
sneakiness. I mean, being again in natural products, and you've been in it longer than me. There's a lot of goofy stuff on organic as well.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I know. And this is one of those things when you think about it a lot, it's like, oh.
Because it's either we filter it before it gets into us, or the body has to work really hard to try and filter, detoxify itself. So, how do you think about detoxifying? Is there anything that that you consume to help the body detoxify itself?
I have cruciferous vegetables just about every day.
Nice. Speak
Yeah.
speak to that and maybe tie that into these microgreens. I'd love to gift you some microgreens here as well.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, can I tell you a little bit about it and then hear your thoughts on it? So we grow, wash, freeze, dry cruciferous microgreens. Microgreens being just a phase in the plant's life. You're familiar with microgreens?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. And people use it as a topper, like a seasoning. Put it on their eggs, salad, sandwich, smoothie, whatever you want. It takes the shelf life from just a few days fresh to now over 1 year. And there's a lot of studies around sulforaphane, NRF2 activation. We test for all those things. So it really empowers the body to produce its own antioxidants. We can produce a lot more than we can consume. We can't, we could eat 20 pounds of blueberries and 20 gallons of green tea, and that's nowhere near as many antioxidants as we can produce ourselves. So this is really like fuel to help the body produce its own antioxidants. And I wonder how you think about cruciferous vegetables and microgreens.
Well, yeah, there's two major phases of detoxification. And so phase two is where a lot of people get stuck. That you can look at your genes and you can find out if you have an MTHFR deficiency in the enzyme pathway. And so you can actually take like methyl donor. A lot of what it is cruciferous vegetables. So you're fixing, if you might have like a weakness in your detoxification pathways, you're fixing that with microgreens, with supplements like what you're talking about. So I'm so excited. That's great. I'm so excited to try your product. It looks amazing.
Thank you. Is there a favorite cruciferous vegetable for you if you can just have one?
You're gonna laugh. My favorite is Brussels sprouts.
Mm-hmm.
I love Brussels sprouts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised my dog isn't sitting up from
Didn't
his nap
alert?
because I will tell him
Yeah.
because I when I cook I give him food. He eats the same thing I do. I He gets a lot of vegetables every night, and so I usually will say, "We have Brussels sprouts."
And how do you like to make them?
So I anyway, like I think my favorite way is to broil them, like with a little salt, or even make like a little glaze with balsamic vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
Delicious.
From my research, red cabbage is the most powerful of the cruciferous. Red cabbage is actually purple,
Hmm.
very unique color in nature. Signals some powerful antioxidants, polyphenols that we find in like blueberries and elderberries. And then it's also, a lot of people like broccoli. That's our best selling product is just broccoli, and broccoli is a man-made vegetable that is a blend of cabbage and something else from Europe, I don't know, a couple hundred years ago because the cabbage wasn't tasting good. But cabbage is like the original broccoli. And for some reason, our lab tests about 3 times as strong with this blend with a lot of cabbage in it than just broccoli on its own.
I love that you brought up the blue purple, food. Like when I was talking about the book earlier, we break it into 5 categories. We have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and white. And blue purple is that group that's all about antioxidants, all about anti-cancer, all about anti-aging. Kids don't really care that much about that.
Sure.
So the way that we frame it for the kids is that these are the foods that give you energy. These are the foods that give you
Mm,
pep, so like the purple cabbage and the blueberries, they're featured very, very prominently in the book. And the character Blake has magic around his or her ankles. The character can be both a boy and a girl. And when we published this book, it wasn't even as much a thing, but we really wanted it to be something where, again, kids, if you're a girl, you can put long hair on Blake, or
mm-hmm,
any skin color can
mm-hmm.
be Blake, right? So something where kids can really identify with it, but they love the magic. And so for blue and purple, it's all over the ankles and feet. Lots of running, lots of pep.
Yeah, speak more to the colors. What do you teach on, associate with each color with?
So red, I teach that it's, well, with the kids, it's just the heart and your brain, right? When it's adults, it's the cardiovascular system, right? Or you can say lycopene. You can kind of get into the technical things, but with kids, so like in the book, the character Blake is shown in a field of tomatoes, and there's sparkles over the hearts, and then we move on to the radishes, and the radishes, there's a little idea like a light bulb over Blake's head, like, oh, this helps me to think. So it's kind of taking science and making it more body based. Orange and yellow, we went right to immunity and vision. Kids love, hearing about. I mean, carrots really do help your vision. Like things like pineapple and all the things with all the high vitamin C. they really do help. Like, and when you ask a group of kids, like, who likes to get a cold, like, nobody's going to raise their hand. When we get to green, I love this because I'm like, who likes getting a cavity? Like, nobody likes getting a cavity. Like, who likes having strong teeth? Who likes having a big smile and having strong bones? That's what green does. Now, we as adults, so we'll talk about other things. We'll talk about calcium, but with kids, it's just about, okay, well, what is this going to actually do for me in my life? Blue and purple we mentioned are about like overall energy and pep. White, we talk about as being good for digestion because you've got foods in there like cauliflower, potatoes, turnips, jicama. Oh my gosh, one of my, like, people are like, what? You have white in the book? I'm like, there's so many things. Plus, there's colors inside and outside. So, typically, because of like the high fiber content of a lot of the white vegetables, potatoes, cauliflower, etc., jicama, amazing. It's really good for your digestion. So, and kids love that because they'll remember this is good for my tummy.
Yeah. Would you share a little bit about the book that you brought?
So the first book in the series is called "Give It a Go, Eat a Rainbow," and so we have this character that I just was talking about, Blake, which can be either a boy or a girl, and we wanted to get into this concept of slow versus go foods, but not actually say it. So my son actually came up with this idea of, Mom, let's use augmented reality because like Pokemon Go was a big thing at the time, and like everybody really liked the idea of like bringing together real life and animation. So that's what we did is we focused a lot on like really good photography, and then we inserted the characters. We worked with an art director who works with kids, and then here so
Thank you.
so the magic is sort of that the character starts out sleepy. And we say the word slow on the next page, but you see this picnic table is full of like
Cookies and donuts.
yeah. And we never say anything about that, but we notice that Blake is feeling slow
Yeah.
and the other kids can go. So that's the first part of it, and then I'm gonna skip the innards and go to the end because at the end you see Blake now has energy, has found the pot of gold. The pot of gold is filled with fruits and vegetables, gets to play with the kite. And there's lessons in there like 5 servings a day. Like we say that, but that's not really, I mean, I'll tell you what the kids really like about this book too, is that Blake gets a medal on this page for trying all the foods, for going on this adventure. And I bring these packs of like these little medals that look just like the ones in the books. And the kids, they get a medal for their participation. So it's like everything about the visit, whether it's trying foods, having a book that's read to them, having the sequel that has a bunny in it and they all love the bunny, or having characters that they make into puppets. Like everything about it is about them. It's like and I don't think I've ever read the book the same way twice because it's not really about me being able to read the book to them. It's about me. I have an agenda. Like I do want to teach them about the colors of the rainbow and how they're good for their body, and I want to teach that Blake has a transformation. So that's this first page. We've got Sleepy Blake, and then we have the last page. Same park, same picnic table, but now there's fruits and vegetables, and it's literally like it's the difference when we talk about words as being 7% of communication. The other 93% is tone and body language. Like we're trying to capture that here instead of saying to the kids, "Look, Blake is eating."
Yeah.
Junk food or some word that I wouldn't use, but like this is here and isn't this icky? Like none of that stuff works. And then at the end, it's more just like, wow, thanks for helping Blake have this, adventure through the rainbow. So that's sort of the book ends. And then the meat of the story is we have to have a magical character in here. We have this leprechaun because we thought the leprechaun would be fun. Shrinks Blake down. So it's kind of like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So this is the magic dust that shrinks Blake down to a smaller size. And then we break up we learned that the rainbow is fruits and
imagery.
vegetable. So
Beautiful
here,
pictures.
yeah, so here it's like they're really seeing a close-up of the vegetables. We never mention lycopene in here at all, but they see the sparkle on the heart. So So I'll just kind of flip through. We created a map. So here's the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple,
Yeah.
white. And the whole time, like I said, I've never read this book ever the same way twice. It's always about, are the kids more interested in the journey? Are they more interested in naming foods? Are they more interested in finding the magic? Like what is the thing that, like, cuz sometimes I will read to the kids in like the cafeteria. They'll have a rainbow day and they'll want the kids to, and it's like trying to get a lot of kids. Like I tried groups over 40 can just be almost impossible.
Sure.
But I've read to really, really big groups, and so it's like you got to change it up every time.
Yeah.
But that's like the basic premise of the book is they go through, and green can be also a tough color for kids, and that's why I love that you have the products that you have, because if they can get the palate for it. Broccoli is my son's favorite food. It's because he's been eating it his whole life. Happens to be really good for you. But with microgreens, if kids started to think of macaroni and cheese as having that sort of, I mean, I think broccoli tastes delicious. I think Brussels sprouts are delicious. Like I love that there's like a deep like texture to it that if you have just regular mac and cheese, you don't get it. So anyway, that's how the book is set up. If that helps.
Yes, thank you. And how many books have you written?
So I'm working on another book right now. This is a totally different project, but I've written 7. And the other one, can I talk about
Please.
the bunny book?
Yeah.
Because so you have the structure. You have Blake learns about slow foods, isn't really, have energy to play, goes on this adventure, learns that all the colors are good for his or her body, then has energy. Okay. So imagine I've done this rainbow day with kids, and teachers are emailing me and saying the snacks have completely changed. The kids are bringing cherry tomatoes and carrots, and like it's just so exciting. Then, a couple things would happen. One is that the excitement would die down after Rainbow Day unless we left the book. The other thing that would happen is the kids would take the rainbow concept and they would be like, Skittles, Lucky Charms.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. And they're
Confuses
and
them.
the advertising around that,
Yeah.
matching to the rainbow, is brilliant.
Yeah.
And basically, this becomes like an advertisement for colored foods. Uh-oh. So the sequel, we introduce a character that's a bunny, and it's a similar structure in that the beginning of the book, Blake is confused. At the end of the book, Blake goes to a farm. So the confusion is resolved that way. But there's a journey in the middle about plant identification by color. But so here we have Blake back at the park and is happy. Bunny's behind a tree. Then in the grocery store, confused. And then I'm just going to skip to the end. So basically, they go on a plant identification journey where they fill a basket. This was actually so much fun to do because instead of doing a pot of gold, it's this little basket that they fill, and they get to see the pineapple, for example, on the plant.
Yeah.
I actually did not know before this book that pineapples grew like on low plants.
No, I didn't know.
I always thought they were in trees or something.
Yeah,
So,
like coconuts.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, like it's amazing what we get to learn as adults.
Yeah.
But at the end, we learn that food comes from plants, that food grown under the sun from Mother Earth.
Yeah.
That's what counts in a rainbow. And I never say that those Skittles or the Lucky Charms or whatever are bad. We just say that Sammy doesn't count them. Sammy can't eat that.
Right.
What would happen if you gave that to Sammy? Oh, Sammy would die. It's actually,
Whoa.
I mean,
Yeah, right. If you just ate Skittles, that's
Yeah.
going to be a problem.
yeah, yeah. So again, there is no expert over here. Like I see myself more as like a reflection. In your question, it's like, okay, well, how do I direct back to you where you can find
Because
it?
it's all about self-discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's so important for kids.
What is the process to writing a book? Like, when do you know you're like, it's time to write a book?
Oh, this is just for me because I know it's different for everybody. I would say the Chilean poet Borges once said that to leave an impact on the world, you can have children, you can teach, or you can write a book. And that was his 3 simple ways of leaving an impact. I think my first book.
You're doing all of them. Nice
I guess
job.
that's true. Yeah, that's exciting.
That is.
I think for me, the the process of writing a book was one of these things that I couldn't not do it, because the nurture work, we needed something that gave it legs after we left. And I believe me, I hoped that there would be something that would work. And so I mean, I think a lot of entrepreneurs kind of have this thing where they need something and it doesn't exist, and there's just a vacuum in the market. And then they say, well, if I filled it, would there be a need? But if you're already doing the programs and you've talked to the teachers and you've talked to the parents, that was sort of the impetus behind the children's books. I've written 3 nonfiction books, and my current project is a fiction book. I would say that my first book was about sort of a credo that I wanted to leave behind for my kids. It was sort of like, this was, if I wanted to capture at that point in my life, like what I thought was a credo to live by,
Yeah.
I wrote this book called Mountain Mantras, and it was just sort of about your perspective on the world, about having a vision, breaking that vision down into goals. It was like really basic stuff that you can probably find in a lot of other books, but I made it my own by incorporating skiing and mountains into the stories, and my work with Olympic athletes, and kind of weaving that together with nutrition advice and wellness advice. So that was sort of something that I don't think anyone else could have done, because I needed that specific kind of exposure to that expertise to be able to braid it together. I think that the writing process is as much for the person writing the book as it is for the audience. I think writing a book can be therapeutic. I think everybody has at least one book in them. One of the books that I wrote actually is on, I should have brought it with me. It's on how to publish a book, and do it in a way that makes you happy, that is fun.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of authors that chose publishing routes that made them very unhappy, and that made them feel very trapped.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I did a whole survey on it. I surveyed hundreds of authors, and I asked them all these deep questions about why they wrote their book, how they published their book, how much it cost them, because a lot of people had ghostwriters or they used hybrid publishing companies. A lot of people, interestingly, the happiest group out of all of my authors were the self-published group.
Why do you think that is? Lowest costs, most kind of ownership?
Well, it's not the lowest cost, because you're actually paying for everything. Like
Oh.
as a self-publisher, you end up being an entrepreneur, because you have to hire your own editors, and hire your own copywriters, and hire your own designers, and all that. So it becomes almost like a CEO running a team.
Oh, wow.
So self-publishing is complicated, but it's very satisfying, because you end up feeling like the CEO of your project, right?
Cool.
Whereas when you're traditionally published, typically you can't pick your cover. A lot of editing rights have been taken away, and
wow.
you might end up with a book that you're like, wait, I didn't even really want to write this book.
Whoa, you
Yeah.
lose creative freedom.
Yeah. In some cases. Yeah. Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by B Micro, organic freeze-dried microgreens for easy, everyday nutrition. Sprinkle them on any meal and enjoy the benefits. Shop now at bmicro.farm and use PLANT15 to save 15% off your next order. So you've been on quite a journey here for now almost 20 years. Who have you become along this process? Who are you today that this process has kind of forged you into?
I think I am today the person that knows that I don't know, that I don't have the answers. Quantum physics has been one of my favorite topics to study. And I remember talking to my dad about it and saying, gosh, Dad, like with quantum physics, we don't have arguments anymore, because everything is true at once. You have your reality, I have my reality. They're both in some part of some superposition, and they're both true. And I think knowing that, and knowing the difference between an answer and an opinion, is really important. And what my experience has shown me through the years, through the decades, is that I am today much less of a person that thinks I have any answers. And I'm very careful with my opinions, because I think we have a lot of opinions today that people don't like. And I think it creates, conflict or ruffled feathers. So I try not to I try to, I'm much more like in the background answering the questions, asking the questions,
Mm,
or knowing that there's a process that allows somebody to get to the answer themselves and sort of being a gentle guide. I think, back when I was in my consulting business, people paid me to have the answer.
yeah.
And so I was much more positioned as an expert. I think when you first publish a book and you're doing book talks and things like that, and I was on the speaking circuit for a lot of things, for positive psychology, for nutrition, for wellness, for entrepreneurial things like goal setting, vision boards, things like that. And they kind of want you to stand up there and be the expert, but I'm at this page or stage in my life where I realize that I'm done with that.
Hmm.
Like you asked about washing stuff. I'm like I really I take myself a lot less seriously now.
Mm,
I I I realize there's in this world today, there is no perfect. I could spend so much time and be so worried about certain things that I would miss out on others through that worry, right?
hmm.
Like if I worried too much about, and I have been there where I've worried about the quality of water, I've worried about, the air index or whatever, and now I'm living in a city, and is that good? And like I just don't. Like I think more about the energy of
Mm,
things
mm-hmm,
than I do about the science
mm-hmm.
or the answer.
And you expressed an interest in quantum physics. Would you give us the 101 on where you're at with quantum physics and how you understand it?
So I have a PhD in natural medicine, and the school that I attended, actually, Joe Dispenza was one of my teachers, Bruce Lipton, I mean, really incredible faculty. And my dissertation thesis was about the bridge using quantum mechanics into healing. And so I'll take a few principles, one being uncertainty, like the uncertainty principle from Heisenberg has been one of the most important things that I hold on to because I know that I don't know. And I know that I won't know until
Mm,
I'm in the afterlife.
mm-hmm,
And so there are certain things like gravity and sun cycles and moon cycles that people say, oh, we know this. And then I'm like, well, have you watched, Neil deGrasse Tyson and the simulation theory or Elon Musk? Like, we don't even, this could be Maya. This could be an illusion. Like, we really don't know.
mm-hmm,
Now, I'm not going to get into an argument about it. I'll just zip my lips,
mm-hmm,
right? So the uncertainty principle is about zipping my lips because I have no idea.
mm,
There's cool things around, non-locality, spooky action at a distance, all of that there is no time. I mean, there's those things that make the healing process, I think, more accessible. Because a lot of us that were studying under Dr. Joe and Bruce Lipton, we were introduced to the concept of a healer and a healee. And it's not like the healer that does the work and makes you healed. It's this co-creation
mm-hmm,
of the healee and the healer working together. And
mm-hmm,
what that does for me is it allows me to step more into a place of agency
mm-hmm.
and not control necessarily, but just agency.
Empowerment.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm,
yeah. So I think that's what quantum physics does to me 101 is it allows me to not position myself as the expert, to realize that we don't understand a lot of things. And all the things that I did on a scatter plot back in my days of consulting, thinking that correlation, was related to causality, or you could even, you know, and I get it. I love statistics. I really do. And quantum physics is all about probability, but a lot of it we really don't know.
mm,
So I think it's allowed me to take myself less seriously, to see myself as a co-creator. And when I get in that position where I might be either in the white coat authority figure or the person that's, looking to that figure, we just take the pedestals out. And that was really important with my work with nurture. And I sort of always knew that all along. I just didn't know why. Because people would say to us, like, why are you like not wearing any uniforms, and you guys have hairnets in, but it's like you're with the participants, and the participants are doing what you're doing, and there is no like hierarchy. Like there's, like I would always say, like, I don't want a nurture video about me. I want it about my board, or I want it about this, or I want it about the participants. And I realize now that especially in topics where there's been so much judgment, pain, shame, despair, whatever, like nutrition. And there really has been a lot around there, that taking away the pedestal, taking away I have the answer, taking away, all of this stuff that like Newtonian classical physics will get you to, if you study that too much, you can almost get hard in your thinking that this is the way it is. And like, I just don't believe that that's true about anything anymore. Why does it have to be this way, especially in today's world? I mean, we are really, I think, on the brink of uncertainty, of no one like a prediction. Like, I would not want to make a prediction into the near future, because with quantum computers, we can't even really, we can't predict a lot. We can't predict what the future will look like.
Yeah, what does that mean? Or where are we with quantum computers? If you're staying up on that, and what might that mean once quantum computers are here?
I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
What are some of the tools that you're using today to run your business, and what are you leaning into?
I in my strength finders, have you heard of the Clifton strength finders?
Mm-hmm.
I think only 10% of the population has this, but I have futuristic in my top 5.
Hmm.
So I can be a little annoying, because I do like, even though I don't know, I love to think about the future.
Mm-hmm.
I love to learn about robotics and AI and
Mm-hmm.
embodied AI. And I'm a crazy science fiction fan.
Mm-hmm.
And my new book is allowing me such freedom. My first fiction book,
Mm-hmm.
to really like play in this world of, I don't have to be right. This is
Mm-hmm.
fiction,
Yeah.
but I can write about something that I want to write about in a fictional way, and it's so fun. And I kind of know where we're going in the book, but it has nothing to do with reality. So I am using AI. AI is not a great writer for books, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
AI is great at writing a one pager. Like Claude can write by far a better one pager than I can. So I'll talk about how we're using AI for the nonprofit, because it's actually something that I'm partnering with DU on. I went over to DU. My son's a student there, and their tagline is private university for the public good. They really, really are interested in how they can get involved in helping the public, and one of the best ways to do that is through nonprofits. So I said to a statistics professor, I said, well, wouldn't it be cool if we could, find a student that was interested in the open claw agent, because that was the hot one at the time. We started at the beginning of this year, and he or she could learn how nonprofits function, because they are structured differently than a for-profit corporation, but they could get a sense for how an open claw agent could help out a nonprofit. And there's a million ways, right? There's unlimited ways that it can help out. So we did this search, and the faculty was so great in helping me find just the ideal candidate. And he and I have been we built an open claw agent. If any of my nurture partners locally are listening to this, Mackenzie is not real. Mackenzie is our agent that we named. And Mackenzie, in a matter of, I mean, just a couple of visits, we just had like different meetings. We launched her, we gave her a personality, and she immediately did a database of preschools and schools and where children gather. She put together that one pager. I actually drafted it. She did a revision of it, and it was way better than mine. She did all these new graphics for me. She started doing emails to all the schools, and she will set up visits for me. And so when I say, if anyone's listening that's had a recent book reading, they'll be like, Mackenzie, can Dr. Kathryn come, between 10 and 11:30 on, like she does all of that,
Wow.
for me. So I'm really excited. When I heard about the open claw, and I went through that whole process of like, it was this, it was this name, and then it was another name, and then they finally, landed on OpenClaw and why it was OpenClaw, and then there was this Bolt Book thing, and Facebook bought that. Like, I love following all of that because I think it's important for us to have a sense
Same.
of what's going on. And do I think that OpenClaw agents will be able to do everything that a human can do at a computer and take away jobs, but within a 12 to 18 month time span, which is what a lot of people are saying? Probably not, because people don't like to fire people. As much as we hear about Dorsey firing 40% or whatever, in the real everyday world, it's, to me, seems much more likely. Again, this is my opinion. I have no idea that people will just start to use these
Yeah. And
agents or
become more
these tools
efficient.
at their existing jobs, and then we'll figure it out. I don't see this sort of like massive cataclysmic event happening in the workforce. Maybe down the road things will. I mean, I think they will be unrecognizable. That's one word I can use to describe what I see in the future, and that is, it's unrecognizable.
Well, thank you so much. Anything else that you want to share?
I just wanted to the
Oh,
characters.
please.
Yeah, I wanted to
Thank you.
bring because I think it's really, we've talked a lot about parents and about things that parents can do to kind of mess up. I mean, when I say that, like, I am a person with personal experience where I think when I had too much control or restrictions put around food, it created something inside of me that wasn't positive, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm very deeply aware of that. But then there are things that you can do. So this is something from the Nurture website. We just did like a care. I always bring these handouts to the kids' visits. What I'm holding in my hand, if anyone is listening to this on audio only, is just the Blake from the book and Sammy the bunny from the book. And when I go to a school, what we do is, after we've read the book and the kids know who Blake is and what Sammy's all about, is we have the kids color and adjust hair and adjust clothing. Like, when I was in Idaho, like, a lot of the boys would like to put their Blakes in camouflage, or like whatever they want to do, it's their
Yeah.
Blake. And that's the whole point, is make it their own. And then we would glue it on a popsicle stick. And the idea is, then you go out into the world and you create action. So, like, a Blake can go to a grocery store and you say, Blake, do you think you can help me find 4 things that are green and 2 things that are purple and 3 things that are, so it becomes a scavenger hunt, it becomes a game, or maybe Sammy goes along to the farmer's market, or, can you help me identify these plants? So it's just sort of an actionable thing, that it can be, that toys can be part of the learning process too. And when a kid brings Blake along to a meal, I have actually seen kids just sit there and talk to their Blake and be like, "What do you think of this? Like, should I try this?" So some of it is just taking advantage of a lot of free resources that are out there right now. I mean, as a parent today, you're like, the world is truly your oyster in terms of resources that you can tap into, that don't cost anything and that are fun to do with your kids. So take advantage of it, everybody, and don't be afraid to hide some microgreens, and be proud of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, where can people learn more about you and your work?
So I have a website called makeeverythingfun.com. I'll send people there because there is a tab about Nurture. So, but Nurture is like curriculum and website. That's nurtureyourfamily.org. And I have not really been on social media for the past couple of years. So, oops. But there's a lot on YouTube. My married name was Guylay, so under Kathryn Kemp Guylay, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube where I've been in other interviews and have done programs for kids. If parents want to learn about Rainbow Days, by all means, reach out. I would love to go to more schools and do more Rainbow Days for kids, and maybe we can also sometimes have some representation of greens with microgreens too, just because they're so easy.
That'd be really great.
Yeah,
Thanks so much. Anything else you'd like to share?
I think that's great. Thanks for all your great questions.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.